Okay, in this video we're going to be checking out the SPCmaker S125 micro drone. This is actually an unusual size, 2.8-inch props. You can't go with 3-inch props in this one, so they're using the King Kong 2840 props, I believe here. Obviously you can go smaller to a 2.5-inch prop. Obviously there's a bunch of those you could perhaps try in this one. I did fly it on 3S on a GNB 550. I believe you could, they do say that you could try this on a 4S, but I probably wouldn't recommend it on this larger prop. And these motors, these are the Sunny Sky 1106 5500 kV. These are the same motors that were on the Diatone GTM 2.5, and on a 2.5-inch prop on 4S, they got pretty hot. So I imagine on even a larger prop on 4S, they're probably going to get even hotter. So I would recommend sticking to 3S. I thought I had plenty of power in 3S. Yeah, it flew just fine. Now it did come tuned out of the box. They actually flew this, and they did put some sort of a tune on there. I wouldn't call it a very good tune. It's an older version of Betaflight. I don't remember exactly, like 3.2 something I think. And yeah, like things like air mode were turned off. I turned that back on. They have some pretty high rates in there. I forgot to change those, and I flew with the really strange rates that they put in there. It did take me a little bit getting used to use it in a flight demo. In this particular one, I got the FlySky receiver. I believe I requested the FreeSky receiver version, but they sent me the FlySky receiver. Perhaps that was the one that was in stock. And funny thing is, this was ordered or sent about almost 4 months ago. Sat in customs for the longest time. I thought I was lost or something, because I did see that it shipped, had a tracking number and everything, and then as soon as it arrived in the United States, I received no tracking updates for about 3 months. I just figured they got lost over there, but it finally showed up. And yes, so anyway, I got the FlySky receiver version here. It's set up on PPM, not iBus. I think I'm not sure why they did that, because they probably really ought to have done iBus, because I believe on this particular FlySky receiver, if you fly PPM, failsafe doesn't work, so you should keep that in mind. And if you do happen to get the FlySky version and want to correct that, you can just move the wire over here basically from the PPM plug on this 4-pin plug move one over to the iBus, and then I think you're going to have to change the UART, because this is an F4 flight controller, and I believe that UART is probably going to be inverted, so you're going to have to move it to like probably from UART 1 to UART 3 to get the receiver to work. So if you have the FlySky version, that's what you would have to do to get it to work. There's probably videos out there that would explain how to wire up a FlySky receiver. Look that up, iBus, FlySky, receiver binding, and receiver setup for Betaflight, if you're wondering how to do that. Obviously it's already set up for PPM here, the way it came out of the box, and that's the way I flew it. So if you're worried about failsafe, just don't fly too far away. I was able to go down to the end of the park where I fly normally 100 meters away. That was fine. But if you do get a failsafe when you're flying with under PPM, it'll just keep on going. So you definitely be cautious about that. But as long as you are nearby, it should be okay with this receiver. And I decided to fly this using PPM because I'm kind of curious. I haven't flown a PPM receiver in probably more than a year, so this is more for me. I just wanted to try out PPM again. And yeah, I had some issues with lag at first, but literally it only took me about a minute, maybe a minute or two, to get used to the lag, and I was able to adjust my flying, along with the strange rates that are in here, to what was already in here out of the box. So you'll see that if you're kind of wondering, if PPM is dead or you really shouldn't fly that. Yeah, probably that's the case, but it doesn't mean it's the end of the world. You can still fly it. I mean, I was able to adjust pretty quickly and fly under PPM. You'll see that I was struggling at the beginning, but by the end I was having absolutely no trouble flying this in the way it was set up out of the box. Okay, so for the rest of the specs here, obviously went over the motors already, 1106 5500 kV Sunny Sky motors. You have a 4-in-1 ESC there. It's 20 amp BLS, so D-Shot 600. And then you have an F4 flight controller with an OSD. All pretty basic stuff here. Then they have their normal SPCmaker video transmitter, 25 and 100 milliwatts max power switchable and only switchable via this button. There's no VTX remote control, no IRC trump or smart audio. So that is, I guess you would say, old school if you go back 6 months now. It's kind of interesting is, I'll get to that in a second, but first of all, yeah, the split mini, obviously you need to mention that. HD recording here via micro SD card. This is obviously the version 1 split mini with the 2 boards, and they have this kind of unique frame setup here. I think they have this carbon plate here that the 2 boards are screwed into. I don't know if you guys can see that. That's what it looks like to me. It looks like there's like a little carbon plate right there, and so the 2 split mini boards are screwed into that, and this thing is like secured and slid into this little slot in the side plates here, and that seems to hold that in place. It doesn't seem to move around at all. So they obviously designed this for the split mini, and you can see it's quite cramped in here. There's not much room for moving stuff around. So you can put your receiver here. You do have adjustable camera tilt on this screw here if you loosen that up. But yeah, they obviously have designed this frame specifically for the split mini. 125 millimeters motor to motor, and 3 millimeter bottom plate, 2 millimeter side plates, and it weighs about 100 grams total. So now the thing I wanted to talk about, like I mentioned briefly, but I kind of skipped over it, is this sat in customs for like 3-4 months, and in that time, this has already become outdated. So you may have seen 1 or 2 videos on this model out on YouTube probably 3 months ago or so. I don't think a lot of people have reviewed this. I'm not sure if they made a lot of these or if they weren't really available for purchase or review. I'm not exactly sure what the story is behind this, but there aren't a lot of reviews on this model. I'm not sure exactly why. Back then, 3 months ago, this split mini 2 board with a 2 board setup here was pretty popular, so surprised that it just didn't get more reviews. And like I said, this is outdated. Literally, 1 or 2 months later, after some model is created, it can be outdated. And because I received this so late, this review is kind of, there's already newer models coming out now with the version 2 of the split mini. In fact, SPCmaker has 2 2-inch models with the single board version 2 split mini. I think they're called the K1 and the K2. So yeah, I'll probably eventually get those, assuming they don't get lost somewhere. But those just came out, so I think those are going to be, I guess, updated versions or newer versions with newer equipment of this kind of sort of concept here of HD recording and a micro. And so yeah, if you're looking for something that can record HD video, something this size and like the 2.5 to 3-inch size, this is obviously one of them that's out there. But a lot of the frames out there now don't have this kind of unusual design. They have the sort of the dual stack layout with usually with a battery on top. You've probably seen a lot of this on my channel already. And of course this one here is a bottom mount battery. There's also other frames that will do bottom mount as well. So yeah, this is kind of an unusual, I don't know how to describe it. There's no real category for this size. It's an unusual size, 2.8 inches, and it's already an outdated model. So not really sure that I can say that this is one that you should be getting. Obviously, if you're really interested in the looks, this is pretty unique looking. In terms of props being viewed, they are just a little bit of the props in the lower and right and left corners of the video and the HD video. Obviously, you could probably zoom in the video on your post-processing and crop that out if you wanted to, or you could raise up the camera tilt a little bit more, and, obviously fly a little bit faster, and get the props completely out of the HD video if that's what you want to do. Anyway, so like back on my little spiel about this being outdated, when this first came out, this was like I think around $225, which is pretty pricey, considering that there's newer models now coming out that are under $200. And in fact, there are new K1 and K2 models, the 2-inch version of their HD recording micros are coming in, I think around 165, I believe, 160, 165. So yeah, this one, unless you really love this styling here and the prop size and all that, probably you ought to wait to see if this comes out on discount, because they might be clearing it out on discount maybe as stock clears a little bit later, so be on the lookout for that perhaps. If this does maybe like around 150 or something like that, then yeah, it might be worth picking up maybe just for the parts, because you could always put all of the stuff into another frame. If you put it into a 3-inch frame, for example, and obviously they get better looks and more space for different stuff that you want to do, and maybe a different frame where the props are, or the camera's more forward and props are ideas. So yeah, if you're just looking for the parts, and if this is like around 150 or so, it wouldn't be too bad. Obviously, you're dealing with the first generation split mini, so that is a bit of a bummer. But yeah, sometimes you can find these things on clearance once in a while, flash sales. So if that's the case, it's not too bad for the parts. I mean, they're all most of the SPCmaker parts are pretty good, but like I said, the tune in here is so-so. It's an older version of Betaflight, etc. So obviously things could be much better, obviously, for something like a bind and fly, and it's supposed to, you should just basically go bind it and fly it, and it should fly really well. So I would say my overall score for this is probably like a 6 out of 10, at best, because I think the tune could be better and the parts are kind of outdated. But that's not really their fault. That's the post office fault, because they delivered this to me way too late. Obviously, my opinion of this would have been different 3 months ago, assuming I had gotten this on time. Not knowing what I know now, but now that we're far into the future, and as newer models keep coming out, obviously my opinion is going to keep changing. And another thing is, like, a lot of people complain that these manufacturers keep putting out models and then updating them. Basically you're getting new stuff every month. Well, that's just sort of the way things are, because there's always new products coming out. Nothing you can do about that. I see those complaints, and I think that's completely pointless, because that's just progress. And if you are afraid that if you buy something today and then a month from now it's going to be outdated, well, that's probably going to happen. That's just a fact of life. And if that's something that you can't live with, then you probably shouldn't be buying anything. That is the way I feel. If that offends someone out there, I'm sorry, but I think people complaining about progress is just kind of silly. Anyway, go ahead and show you the flight demo for this. If you have any questions about this, let me know, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Okay, so I'm flying this around with PPM on the receiver, and the rates feel kind of funny. It's quite laggy, actually. I haven't flown anything PPM in a long time. I've been only flying serial, so you can tell that my flying is not so great. They definitely should not be selling this configured for PPM. They should be configuring it for iBus. But just flying it the way it came to me, out of the box, with the tune that it came. Very laggy. Yeah, I think I'm also flying it with the rates that they put on here. It's got really high rates. And my flips are way faster than I am used to. Just flying this on a 553S. So should be plenty of power in this 2.8-inch prop. You might be able to get away with flying this on 4S, but I don't want to risk burning out the motors at 5500 kV on a 2.8-inch prop. Video reception's not too bad down there, kind of far away. I think I'm only at 25 milliwatts. They're using the same video transmitter that doesn't have any video VTX remote control, so it's all button operated. We're already getting a low voltage warning, 3.5 volts per cell. Tune is pretty loose on this guy. but I think it has a lot to do with the wind, and it is running an older version of Betaflight. I'm not sure exactly what version, but it's super windy right now. So it's actually doing pretty good considering how windy it is. So it is flyable on PPM. Just have to get used to the lag. It's a bit laggy. I think we're at the end of the battery now. 3.5 minutes. I don't think I fully charged this battery. I think I might have been sitting charged for a while, so overall not too bad, about what I expected for this setup. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below.